What's up, guys? It's Abe Daddy, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Is It Ass. So let's just jump right into it. What do you get when you give over 200 developers 5 years to make a game? Somehow, we got Mass Effect Andromeda. Let's start with the good things, because there definitely are some. So let's start with the plot. I seem to be the only one who, for the most part, actually enjoyed the plot. When I say the plot, I am specifically referring to the chain of events in the game, not the dialogue or writing. Without spoiling too much, the game has you playing as a male or female rider. You and your people slept for over 600 years to travel to this new galaxy called Andromeda. You are the Pathfinder, whose job is to locate planets that can comfortably sustain life for you and your people. As you continue your journey, you meet a handful of new species, each with very interesting and detailed backstories. As someone who really enjoys story in video games, I really appreciate them taking the time to give these different species the backstory to truly make them feel alive. Another thing that I liked is the variety of weapons at your disposal. You have 5 different categories: assault rifles, pistols, shotguns, snipers, and melee weapons. Each category has a multitude of weapons, all with different stats, appearances, and sounds. On top of all of that, each weapon also has its own mods that you can use to enhance your weapons. To name a few, you have barrels that increase damage, magazines that increase clip size, and scopes that increase your weapon's overall accuracy. You're allowed to use 2 mods at a time, which can lead to some pretty fun and personal weapon customization. Another aspect to the combat is your skills. Your skills are abilities that you earn that give you some sort of advantage in combat. They're spread into 3 separate categories: combat, biotic, and tech. My personal favorite was the overload skill in tech. You can use this to charge up electricity and shoot it at your enemies. You get points for leveling up, which you can use to unlock skills. The more points you spend on a skill, the more powerful it becomes. You can equip 3 different skills at a time, and if you use them back to back, you'll perform a combo, which does even more damage to your enemies. And yeah, so that's all the good that I could come up with. So now on to everything else. The writing in this game is a disaster. Tons of very generic dialogue with one-liners that you've probably heard a million times.
I think I really pissed that one off. Maybe because I shot him in the face.
I mean, come on, that's something I would have said in like 3rd grade. If I had to describe the writing in one word, it would be uninspired. Instead of focusing on making the dialogue interesting and unique to the game, they focus on making it just good enough to get by, which for a space drama where half the game is about talking with people and finding new species like Mass Effect, it's absolutely unacceptable. Which leads me to the dialogue wheel. The dialogue wheel is fucking stupid. I love the idea of being able to pick what I get to say. However, almost every single time I pick an option, Ryder says something completely fucking different. What's the point in giving me a choice if he's not even going to say what I chose? It's unfortunate because there actually are some thoughtful lines and lines that genuinely had me cracking up for good reason. However, those lines get completely buried under the cringeworthy garbage that they call a script. On top of all of that, as you probably guessed, the voice acting is just as bad. A lot of the lines sound off and kind of awkward. The main problem is the way that they decided to record it. You can easily tell that they only recorded 1 line at a time instead of recording paragraphs at a time. It seems like a lot of companies have been doing this recently, and I have no idea why. To me, it's always blatantly obvious when they do so. The combat system in Mass Effect is kind of a mixed bag. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of weapon variety and different techniques that are available to you that makes it stand out compared to other games. But the combat system suffers from a very major problem that is similar to the one of No Man's Sky. The first couple hours are cool, and at first it seems like there's a lot of depth. But you soon realize that after about 6 hours in that you've already seen it all. To put it simply, it gets boring after a while. The AI is very predictable. They'll either just rush your position, or they'll take cover and stay there until you kill them. When you know what's coming, it becomes very tedious. Early on, during your first big mission, you run into what I thought was a mini-boss. He has an orb that circulates around him that you need to shoot in order to lower his shields. I enjoyed them bringing in a boss, and you even get a cutscene afterwards with that boss. But later on, you realize that there's a ton of these guys. This makes the encounter and cutscene I just spoke of pointless. That enemy and one other that you could consider a mini-boss are the same ones that you'll see throughout the entire game. Instead of making multiple mini-bosses with different ways to take them down to that difficulty, EA once again opts for the easier decision. They decide, oh, to make it more challenging, we'll just send a ton of the same enemies at you. Once again, it's unfortunate because they had some solid ideas with the jump and dash mechanics as well as the variety in weapons. But by the end of the game, you're beyond sick of the combat and try to avoid it as much as you can. And I haven't even gotten to the worst thing about this game yet. The worst thing about this game is how unpolished and buggy it is. It's unbelievable. It's the buggiest game I've ever played by far. I could literally make a 10-minute video exclusively showing off all the glitches I experienced within my playthrough. Just to name a few, I had 2 separate occasions where I opened a door and I could see through it, but for some reason there was some invisible wall preventing me from going through the door. Another time, I walked into a room on my ship, and the door behind me closed and wouldn't reopen. I ended up having to reboot the game. And that's not even the worst of it. The game straight up crashed on me twice, and I literally started the game with a game-breaking glitch. The beginning of the game starts with a cutscene. I heard audio for about 5 seconds, and all of a sudden, I hear my speakers pop, and then I completely lost sound. At first, I thought that maybe my speakers blew, but I went to the PlayStation Home menu, and my sound was magically back. So what the hell, EA? And apparently this is a somewhat common problem. Hell, it even happened to Angry Joe and other reviewers on YouTube. How does this even happen? A lot of these glitches are game-breaking and force me to reboot. And this is just scratching the surface. I haven't even talked about the facial animations. All of this leads me to the final point of this video. This is unacceptable. You know, this isn't some indie developer with a few employees just trying to get by and put out a game. This is EA, one of the biggest video game developers in the world. And this is the best you can do? On top of that, you guys had the audacity to put fucking microtransactions in the multiplayer. If I had to describe Mass Effect Andromeda with one word, it would be lazy. EA can do so much better than this. I've seen it with the other games that they've developed. You know, we're going into this dangerous time in video game history where companies are releasing these buggy-ass games at launch with the mindset of, oh, don't worry about it. Pick it up, $60, yeah. You know, we'll patch all those bugs in an update, you know, probably after you've already beaten the game. But go ahead, pick it up, you know, $60, yeah. And I just can't support that. So I rate games on a very basic scale of either it's ass or it's not ass. And Mass Effect Andromeda is absolutely ass, and not the good kind. Now, is it the 4 out of 10 like the user score on Metacritic says it is? No. But with the bad writing, boring combat, and the unbelievable amount of bugs for $60, I can't recommend that. All right, guys, well, that's my review of Mass Effect Andromeda. I hope you liked it. If you did, maybe subscribe. If not, I hope to see you next time on another episode of Is It Ass?